Fire, baby. I love me some fire. And Gen 9 has introduced a lot of it. Not to mention the fact that it's probably one of the coolest offensive types in the game. Burning your opponents to smithereens with Fire Blasts and Flare Blitz will always be the appeal of picking the Fire Starter. And today, we're going to be ranking the top 10 strongest of these bad boys. The rules of this list stay the same. No Super Legendaries or Sub-Legendaries like Entei are allowed. The Pokemon has to be obtainable in Scarlet and Violet, so no Victini, and also no Z-moves, Megas, and G-Max forms. Lastly, this is a list oriented around Smogon competitive singles and what the Pokemon on this list do in their respective format, which means that there's no Incineroar. I figured if I didn't specify this, I would probably get some people kicking down my door. With that said, let's begin. So it starts off with the Mon that's banned from the tier it did stuff in entirely, and that is Blaziken. Blaziken was way too strong for UU thanks to exactly Speed Boost. That pretty much goes without saying. Access to Terra Flying Acrobatics, as well as Stab Close Combat and Flare Blitz, let it utterly bludgeon the tier without mercy. There were basically no true counters to it outside of Unaware Skeledirge. Pex, Azumarill, and Slowking resisted its stabs, but they couldn't handle its Terra. Pecharunt could be worn down with time, and trying to get in your Excadrill to outrun it is easier said than done, because after enough speed boosts, it stopped outrunning it. This thing is truly an offensive demon. The only things that can take a hit from it consistently are like the like and the subscribe button, which you guys should press to show that you hit harder than +2 Blaziken. I consider Ceruledge, who is also banned from UU, slightly better than Blaziken, because Ceruledge is just easier to use in my opinion, and entirely because of Bitterblade. They do functionally the same thing, don't get me wrong, but Bitterblade restoring my hit points while Flare Blitz takes them away is just better to me. But yeah, Ceruledge's Swords Dance plus Weak Armor set made it nightmarish to deal with in the tier it was banned in and incredibly unhealthy. After a Swords Dance, basically nothing could switch in on it, since nothing resisted both Fire and Ghost outside of Tyranitar. And what happened if Tyranitar came in, you might be asking? Well, you simply Terra Fighting'd and hit close combat in its face, but teach it a lesson. It basically ruled the tier once Garganacl got banned from it, and thus was promptly overthrown by the community and banned. So, even though Blaziken and Ceruledge are banned from UU, and Heatran isn't, why isn't Heatran above them? Because Heatran, by all accounts, has much more consistent results in the OU tier. Results-wise, this was the guy. With Stealth Rocks and Magma Storm, it didn't matter if you could switch in on it. It was always getting chip damage. And with Terra Grass to help with its Earthquake and Hydro Steam problem, especially defensive Heatran was tough to deal with for its time. It threatened Goldango, Kingambit, Clefable, Corviknight, and Rillaboom. It could mitigate Gliscor's Toxic Orb healing, and Surprise Flame Body was a fun way to troll physical attackers that thought they were safe. So, what happened to it? Well, the meta shifted against it. Tinglu, Great Tusk, Ogerpon Wellspring, and Iron Treads are all incredibly common. And because they are, Heatran got forced to Terra too easily, and people started taking advantage of it. But hey, he had a good run and a good legacy. Cinderace is up to its usual antics. It's a fast, offensive U-turn pivot with access to Will-O-Wisp to cripple physical threats, and Court Change to show that hazard stacking offense team what for. With Pyro Ball, it hits incredibly hard, and with Sucker Punch and High Jump Kick buffed by Libero, it can also be a scary offensive threat on its own that takes advantage of the hazards it redirects. While it doesn't directly threaten much, being able to Pyro Ball a Goldango or High Jump Kick to turn fighting and resist Sucker Punch is really nice. And that base 119 speed lets it get in and out of battle pretty reliably. Being forced to deal with booster speed paradoxes does make its speed less impressive, and I would say that's the biggest thing holding it back. But hey, I would say it is the single most reliable hazard removal tool in the tier outside of the Paradox Donphans. Iron Moth is a Pokemon that can end games on the spot. I'd argue it's the entire reason that Sun lost its relevance in OU, because it could take advantage of Torkoal's slow and passive nature to get free sun-boosted fiery dances that let it end games at the snap of its fingers. Roaring Moon and other dragons became non-issues thanks to Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam on top of that. Even with Sun gone, a booster speed Iron Moth is still an excellent cleaner, especially if its opponent lets it get a sub up. Booster speed Iron Moth is faster than Walking Wake, kills Zamazenta, rips through Goldango and Kingambit, can kill Tusk after some chip, and with enough boosts, it can break any non-Clodsire wall. Its physical frailty holds it back, and sometimes leaves it prone to Kingambit 50-50s. But that's almost everything with Kingambit. Maybe it's a hot take, but I'd outright say that Moltres is the best and most reliable fire type currently allowed in Scarlet and Violet OU. Its excellent defensive profile and natural attacking power alongside Flame Body make it a bit of a pain in the ass to deal with. It's probably one of the best buffers to physical attackers in the tier with its ability, Will-O-Wisp, and good physical defense investment. Good job rapid spinning. Get burned. Nice Zamazenta body press. Burn. Nice Kingambit swords dance. Burn. Okay, never mind. It Terra Fired. Okay, but if it doesn't burn, nice use of the move U-turn. Get burned for making physical contact. Moltres is just here to burn every non-fire physical attacker in the tier and not think twice about it. The only good physical moves to use against it are rock moves, and then like Wellspring Ivy Cudgel. The meta favors this rubber chicken, and honestly, I could not be happier. Okay, so these next 4 Pokemon are banned from the tier, but do nothing in Ubers. So we're gonna go through what got them banned from OU, and what makes them better than everything else on this list. Gouging Fire's natural physical bulk and access to Dragon Dance, as well as serviceable speed, excellent stabs, and high-ass attack, made it really hard to deal with, especially in Sun, where its attack got buffed by photosynthesis and its stab fire moves got buffed by the sun. It was near unwallable by anything in the tier, because nothing outside Dondozo and mostly oddly specific walls wanted anything to do with it. It rammed through most Great Tusk sets, bullied Alomomola, threatened damage on Tinglu and Garganacl, and could one-shot mostly everything else in the sun after Dragon Dance. Terra Ground made the problem even worse. It needed to go. I'd argue that Volcarona got banned entirely off of the merits of Terastallization. At the same time though, being able to run any set with any EVs with any Terra, and then Quiver Dance on top of all that to end games in an instant, and then Flame Body to punish Mons that wanted to prey on you for your physical frailty was very much not okay. This Pokemon was Moltres, but more geared offensively that could also play the defensive, that also could abuse Substitute and Roost. Nothing in OU could handle this consistently because there were 4 sets with no indicators on which is which, and it was all one big guessing game. Too much variance. So, you know how Volcarona got banned for having too much variance? Ogerpon Hearthflame has no such issues. No, it just had a single set last I checked. That set had Mold Breaker on its non-Terra form to hit through Flash Fire, and was the reason Heatran dropped to UU the first time. Its Power Whip and Ivy Cudgel could only be switched into by dragons, and those dragons dropped to Play Rough. After a Swords Dance, it was unkillable. And then to make it worse, Terra Fire buffs its stab, and then gives it Gen 8 Intrepid Sword. I hate this thing. So I maybe shouldn't have done the calc. As I finished the script and went to go read my 100 DMs for my buddy about Terra in National Dex and how it should be banned, and how bladdering is hard, I began to notice that my house is currently on fire. Due to needing repairs, we will be undergoing budget cuts. So my buddy out there better start paying up.